so back from a pretty long-term hiatus, but today, as far as cooking is concerned, I am making cottage pie, which is very similar to shepherd's pie, but shepherd's pie uses ground lamb and cottage pie uses ground beef. So the first thing we had to do was boil and mash some potatoes, and these are pretty well mashed. The next thing I'm going to do is add salt, pepper, and some double cream Gouda. You can use any cheese, but double cream Gouda is what I have. And then we're going to mix it up, make sure it's really nice and spreadable, and then set it aside for later. So this is what my finished potatoes are going to look like. If your potatoes were not hot enough to melt the cheese, just put the whole pan over the heat for a little bit, low heat, please, and just kind of, stir stuff around. But as you can see, it will easily smooth out, and give it a taste. Yeah. Smells good. Always want to make sure you test potatoes for seasoning, but especially salt, because potatoes take a lot of salt. Alright, so next is for filling. Okay, so we're back to cooking. My potatoes are all cool, and now it's time to start cooking the filling. So here I've got carrots, onions, and garlic, and I've got some oil heating here, and so we're just going to saute those, but I do not trust myself to dump them in with one hand, so I'll come back in a second. Okay, everything is now officially into the pan, and we're just going to saute this for a couple of minutes on medium heat. Stirring pretty frequently. You really don't want your garlic to burn. You could also use a combination of frozen peas and carrots. I'll add some of that in later, but this is not when you would want to put them in. They'll get a little too soft too quick. So I'll probably add that in towards the end of cooking the meat. Next, we'll add in our meat, of course. So since this is cottage pie, I'm using ground beef. If you were doing a shepherd's pie, you can use ground lamb. Really, I guess you could use any ground meat that you can get your hands on. Goat, turkey, chicken. If you're using ground bird meats, I would probably encourage you, maybe I'll take my meat, but I would probably encourage you to add a little more fat while you're cooking. Okay, so I'm just going to get this all nice and browned. Okay, so as you can see, my meat's all browned up, and I put tomatoes, and accidentally some paper, I guess. No. I put tomatoes in because this recipe calls for tomato paste, but I don't have any tomato paste. And the second best thing, I guess, would be ketchup, but I don't have any ketchup. So I just put some tomatoes in the center to kind of break down a little bit. But next we'll add the salt, pepper, Worcestershire sauce, if I said that right, and the beef broth. I'm just using beef bouillon because that's what a girl has. So yeah, add that in there, and then let it simmer and reduce a bit. If you need to, you can also add flour. And this recipe also calls for a bay leaf, if you happen to have those. I don't. Okay? And also, after I've added in all the stocks and liquids, that would be a good time to add your peas and carrots if you were going to go the route with peas and carrots. So now we're cooking with all of our liquids inside. It's reduced a little bit. I've had a couple of whole cloves of garlic just because I was not satisfied with the garlickiness. I think I shall add just a wee bit of flour to thicken this up, but also let it reduce a bit. And now would be the time for frozen veg. Okay, so I'm gonna go and get my peas. Okay, so we're as thick as I desire it, because again we're gonna go into the oven with this after we put the mash on top. So if you were cooking in an oven-safe pan, as you can see mine is not, but if you were cooking in an oven-safe pan, you could totally just pipe the mashed potatoes on top, and just, shove it right into the oven. But since I'm not, I'm going to go into a pretty big ramekin. Not sure what size this is, doesn't tell me, but it's oven safe. So I'm gonna go from here to the ramekin and then put our mashed potatoes on top. Okay, so now we've got the meat mixture in the bottom and the potatoes on top, and so I'm just going to score the surface, because you really want some grooves and stuff so that they can brown up nicely in the oven. So just don't want the surface to be too perfect. Okay, I think that's nice. We're gonna set our oven to 350, and yeah, let that cook for I think 15 to 20 minutes. And now, humans of the internet, we have my finished cottage pie. I put it under the broiler for a couple of seconds, just to lightly toast up the top. You could use a hand torch, which I think might work a little better, and run less of a risk of burning liquids around the edge. But I'm going to let this cool, because as you can see around the edge, it is still bubbling. Let this cool for a little bit, and I'll show you some finished pictures, I guess, of after I've kind of dug down into the middle. Alright, toodles humans, and thanks for watching. Okay, so it turns out there is no nice way to take a pretty picture of the inside of a shepherd's or cottage pie, because it's just not a really pretty, well, come here, it's just not a super pretty food. But there we go, it is quite tasty, and I think you will enjoy this recipe. So give it a go and let me know what you think, inshallah. Toodles.